Welcome to the Data Hall YouTube channel. We have started this series of lectures on data visualization using ggplot in R. In our previous video, we discussed about the basics of the ggplot, and in this video, we are going to cover the categorical variables. So we are going to learn how do we create a bar chart which is used to visualize a single categorical variable, and we are going to look into the grouped or stacked bar charts which are used for visualization of two categorical variables. So if we are interested in looking into the relationship of two categorical variables, so we are going to use the grouped or stacked bar charts. In our next video, we are going to look into the relationships of or visualization of a single numerical variable, a relationship of categorical and numerical variable, and two numerical variable for which we are going to use the scatter plot. So let's start with this single categorical variable. First thing, we are going to load our library, which is tidyverse. Now, this tidyverse library loads a lot of libraries. It loads dplyr, etc. And one of the library that we are interested in is the ggplot2 library. So if you just load the tidyverse package, it would load all those libraries that we are interested in. We are going to also load the data set. In this video, we are going to use the MPG data. We have 234 observations and 11 variables. So let's look into how the data looks like. We have different cars over here, their manufacturers, their model, their year of manufacturing, their displacement, the number of cylinders they have, whether it is an auto transmission or a manual transmission, it is a categorical variable, then whether it is a four-wheel drive, forward-wheel drive, or a rear-wheel drive, and what is the class of that car, whether it is a pickup, it is an SUV, or a compact car, or a two-seater car. So some data related to cars. Okay. So we have discussed the basics of the ggplot and how do we create a basic visualization in R. We are not going to discuss those basics in this video. We are going to dive into creating the categorical visualizations. So we're going to use ggplot, the data, and within aesthetics, we have just defined a single X variable. So what we want is we want to map this class variable on the x-axis, right? Now in our previous video, when we were making scatter plot, we had x-axis and we had y-axis. But in a bar chart, we have categories on the x-axis and we have counts or frequency or percentage proportion on the y-axis. So there is no specific variable on the y-axis. The y-axis contain the frequency or the count, right? So that's why in the bar chart, we are just going to use the X. So the class, which is this variable, that contains the class of the car, whether it is a pickup car, an SUV car, a two-seater car, or a mid-size car. Okay, so on that, we are going to make a bar chart, right? So we haven't specified any parameters within that, so it would be going to be a simple bar chart. If I press Control Enter, we get a bar chart, and we know that in our data we have quite less number of two-seaters, but we have a lot of SUVs in there. Now this looks quite basic. Wouldn't it be more appealing if we had colors or these bars were filled with different colors, and it would be more visually appealing, and also we can easily distinguish between different categories. So what we do is, within this aesthetics, we defined a new argument, which is the fill. So that fill is related to how do you want to fill these bar chart. Now I want to assign a color based on the class, right? So for each category, for each class, I should have a different color. So that is what I have done. If I wanted a specific color in all of them, then I would have specified, let's just say, that specific color, and we would have we would fill the red color in all of them. But that isn't more meaningful. It would be more meaningful if we fill a separate color for each for each category. So this is what I have specified over here. We have this class variable, and I want to distinguish these colors based on those class variables. The rest of the command is exactly the same. So if I press Control Enter, we get our quite interesting bar chart, and we also get our legend over here. But in this case, we do not want the legend. So what we do is within the geom bar, we use the show.legend argument. By default, it is true, but we would change that into false. And what that would do is it would remove this legend. So let's press Control Enter. The rest of the command is exactly the same. We have removed the legends. Now these colors are quite sharp. I would like to decrease the brightness or transparency of these colors, right? So for that, what we do is we use this alpha, which is used to change the transparency of these colors. And I'm specifying the 0.5, so this would be 50% transparent. So if I press Control Enter, the rest of the command is exactly the same. Now these bar charts are transparent, and you can see the grid lines behind them. Now obviously those grid lines do not look good, so I might also want to remove those grid lines, and one of the way to remove them is to define a theme. Now I have already discussed different things related to themes and different packages that we can use to enhance the themes in my previous video. I'm just going to use this classic theme to remove this grid line, right? The idea of theme is not to remove the grid line, but I am using it just to remove these grid line in this specific video, right? So I have removed the grid lines. Now these bar charts or these categories are on the x-axis. What if we wanted them on the y-axis? Now one of the way is to change this into y, right? And now instead of having these categories on x-axis, we would have them on y-axis. If I press Control Enter, we have them on y-axis. But there is another way, and that is to flip this bar chart, right? So let me get that back. So we can have a visualization. So now we want to flip this bar chart, and for that we use the coord flip, which stands for coordination flip. So this coordination flip is used for, there are multiple coordination related functions within ggplot, but this coordination flip is used to flip the bar chart. So I have used the exact same command, but I have removed this fill and the legend, etc., because let's make the command simple. And I have used an additional function, which is coordination flip, and that would do exactly the same thing, and it would flip the bar chart. Now we have lost the colors because I'm not using the fill and the alpha etc. arguments, just to make things simpler. Now there is one more coordination. I mean, there are multiple, but let me show you some of them. So we have all these coordination in there, right? Some of them are quite advanced, but I'm interested in this chord puller, and which is used to make a Coxcomb chart. And if I press Control Enter, this is how it would look like. Again, we can use the fill and the alpha, etc., to bring colors into them. Okay. Now let me go back to my basic chart. So we have these bar charts. Now, how are these bars sorted? They are sorted by default. They are sorted alphabetically, right? So C comes before M. So the category that contains C would come before the category related to mid-size. So you can see that they are sorted alphabetically by default. What if we wanted to change the sorting? Now, there are two things related to that. One is that, let me show you the structure of this data. So if I can do str, which is used to check the structure of the data, mpg, you can see that these are the data types of these variables. So this manufacturer is the character data type, model is also character, displacement is number, and there are other category character data types. There's one specific data type which is called factors, and we do not find that data type in this specific data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this diamonds data just to show you how it would look like. And let me do str, check the structure of the diamond data. You can see over here there is this specific category, this specific data type which says ordinal factors, and what that means is that there is, now these categories do not have any levels in them, right? So it doesn't mean two-seater is better or worse than compact, or compact is better or worse than SUV. So there is no inherent order in these, right? So they aren't defined in an ordinal or at an ordinal scale. But this diamonds data set, which contains the data related to diamonds, it contains their carat, their cut, color, clarity, price, etc. Okay, so if we look at the cut, so we have an inherent order in there. So fair is obviously, so good is better than fair, right? So then we would have, say, ideal is better than good. So there is an inherent order in there, and the data type that is used within R to describe this data is the correct data type, right? It is the ordinal scale. Now, if we use this diamond data and we map the cut on the x-axis, I'm using the simple bar chart, you would see that by default, because there was an ordinal scale, by default ggplot would not place these categories alphabetically, but rather it would place them based on their level. So obviously P comes before V, but in this case, because premium is a more better category than very good, so we have a scale over here. Now that is missing in the MPG data, right? So I have shown you that there is no ordinal category as we had in the diamond dataset. So how do we work with that if we wanted to make, so if we wanted to make a bar chart where the category didn't had any inherent order in them, what we do is we use the factor in frequency option, right? Now, if we bring in the help menu of this function, what it does is it reorders the categories based on frequency. So this is what this fact in frequency would do, the number of observations for each level, right? The largest would come first. So if I press Control Enter, now we can see that instead of having categorized or having bar charts having placed alphabetically, now it is based on frequency. So the highest frequency would come first and the lowest would come at the end. If you wanted to reverse that, what you can do is you can use the fact reverse and wrap these function within the fact reverse, and it would reverse the factors. So now we would have the lesser frequency before first, and then the highest frequency at the end. Okay, so that was related to a single bar chart, or when we have a single categorical variable. What if we had multiple categorical variables, or in this case, I'm not going to use more than 2 categorical variables. We're just going to stick with 2 categorical variables at max in this video. So let's say within this MPG data, we do have classes, but we also have this drive variable that contains 3 categories, whether the car is four-wheel drive, whether it is a forward wheel drive or a rear wheel drive. Now what I want is I want to make bars based on class as we had already done, but I want also have the drive to color them, right? So each bar would be colored based on the drive. And we would have a legend over here. So this pink is the four-wheel drive, this green is the forward wheel drive, and this blue is the rear wheel drive. So we can see that all of the two-seaters are rear wheel drive and all of the pickups are four-wheel drive, right? And most of the SUVs are four-wheel drive. So this gives us some of the idea. So you can also do alpha equal to 0.5, and that would decrease the brightness if you want to. Now, one thing about this type of graph is that it do give us the frequency, but we cannot compare them. I mean, there is no relative idea, right? So what we want is we want to have them in proportions. So what we do is within geom bar, we have this argument called position, and we use the dodge option within that. And what it would do is it would place the categories side by side. Now, in this specific case, in this MPG data set, it doesn't look quite good, but let's go to the diamond data set. And within diamond data set, we have these two variables. This is cut and the color. Now, cut is what we have already explained. It is a categorical ordinal scale, and then we have colors. We have certain colors over here. Now, what we do is we have the cuts as the bars, and within those cuts, we want to fill based on the color of the diamond, right? Now, this would be what we would call the grouped bar chart instead of a stacked bar chart. By default, it would do the stacked bar chart as we did over here. So this is what we have, the stacked bar chart. But if it isn't clear because it misses out the information, so for that we can use the dodge option, and we can have the grouped bar chart, and we can see that each categories of the color and each category of the cut. There are multiple options that we can use. We can use stack instead of dodge, and that will look like this. And we can also use identity, and identity is interesting because what it would do is it would place them in so there is one more option that is fill, and that would place them in the same proportion, and now we can compare them side by side. We can also do facet wrap, and this is what we have somewhat discussed in our previous video. So we going back to the MPG data, we have this class, and then we want to fill it over drive. We want to use the dodge bar chart. And let's do facet wrap, and what that would do is it would make is a separate bar chart for each type of drive. But we have messed up these x-axis, right? So what we can do is we can use the theme argument, right? Add a layer over there, and we can what we can do is we can change the text of the x-axis. We use the element text function and change the angle, right? And have some adjustment, vertical adjustments. So this is how it would look like. We have these text at the 90-degree angle. Now there is one more thing, and that is related to missing values in the bar chart. Now there isn't any missing value in our MPG data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the first value of the class variable, class column, as NA, and that would be considered a missing value. So previously we had a value over here, but now I have removed them with it. I have removed it with the missing value, and the reason is I want to demonstrate a concept. Now, if I want to make this bar chart, this is again this simple bar chart. What you would see is that we get this any category because R is considering it a category. So what we want is, instead of before making this ggplot, we want to remove these missing values. So we take the MPG data and then we use the drop any values, the missing values from the class variable, and then we make the ggplot. And when the rest of the command is exactly the same, because we are already piping in the data into the ggplot, so we do not need to use the data as the first argument of the ggplot. Now that any is gone. Lastly, we can give it a nice theme to remove the grids. So I hope that was useful. In next video, we are going to look into the numerical data and the relationship of numerical data with the categorical data. So stay tuned to this channel, do hit the subscribe button and do hit the bell icon.